are ready to go. I'm Ghislaine Boddington. I'm going to do an opening, 10 minutes or so, to this special day, the Open Innovation Day at Plexal. So here we go. There's me, Ghislaine Boddington, and I work with Body Data Space. We're a locally based small business, but I've done lots of work here at Plexal, been involved from the beginning of the idea, so I'm very, very happy to be here on this day, but we're actually opening the doors. It's time to open the doors. And as you know, in April this year, Plexal and My Life, My Say started the Social Inclusion Unit here, and this is one of the first activating events of that Social Inclusion Unit. And in their plans, the clear message is it's time to open the door. And what are we opening the door to? We're opening the door to social inclusion. And social inclusion, as we know, in this quite turbulent times, in a time of shift change in the world and difficulties in the world that we hear about every day, so I'm not going to mention them, I say, well, climate change, poverty, etc. We are even more in need of new approaches to social inclusion than we've ever been. Because we all know, and I know everyone in this room would agree with this, that brilliance is evenly distributed throughout society, but opportunity is not. And that's what we need to start to shift around us. So it's great to see such a range of people and faces here today. And so, just to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been based in the East End of London since the mid-80s. I started my first startup here in 1989 in Stratford in the culture sector. I was working with community dance sector, all over town, Hamlets, etc. And I did many years in that arts culture sector in the East End. And actually then merged into the tech scene and started to work with tech, etc. And as I've been, throughout my life, I've been caught in this quite complex balance inside me and in everything that I've been doing between my values and value, keeping my companies going, paying ourselves, getting to pay the rent, etc. So the values that I've had, that endeavour to actually bring together my ethics, my social beliefs, my personal beliefs, and can still keep profitability and bring money back into projects, has always been this very complex mix in my whole career. And so that's why I'm so pleased to see these words starting to come together. There was a point like 5-10 years ago when I would talk with some corporate person or a politician or whatever, and I'd say, you know, what we're doing, we're looking at the values of this, and the immediate assumption was that I was talking about money, not about values in society. So here we are today to try to merge these. So I wasn't born in London, but my mother was. My mother's Irish, and she came into London in the early 1950s, and to face this. And this is what we need to remember, yeah? This is illegal today. To put signs up like this, thank goodness, yeah? To put signs up like this in cafes, in accommodation, in bed and breakfast, etc. But it wasn't. This was part of the 50s Britain. And we know that even though it's illegal today, we do know, of course, that this may not be showing in our faces, but this, with different words on it, etc., is in the background of everything that we're seeing. And that's the base of social inclusion. It's much more complex today. And I haven't mentioned Brexit, but here we are. The complexities are in our faces all the time. It's not transparent, it's not translucent. We have to really understand the layers of complexities that are in front of us in a very, very mixed, not just culturally, but mixed everything scenario that we are in. And what is this based on? This is based on fear of otherness. Otherness is the problem. Actually, what that's other to me. And therefore, I'm not sure about that. So therefore, I can look and say you, and I can look at you, meet you, and I can say, she's other to me. What I need to absolutely remember at all points is that everybody is somebody's other. So when I look at you and think that, you be thinking the same to me. And I need to understand that I am equally other to people as I see people as other. And therefore, that's where the brilliance comes. That's where we can put this all together and make the specialness come through. So social inclusion and innovation, which is where we are in Plexal in the innovation space here, is all about enabling these pioneer interactions between diverse ranges of people and ideas, and the aim there all the time is to respond to a range of social needs and to initiate positive social change. And that's what the social inclusion unit here at Plexal is about adding into and helping to go along with the way. Open innovation is the name of the day. And open innovation is an area which has gathered massive traction across the last 20 years or so, particularly since the early 2000s. There are many open innovation methodologies, and I know the social inclusion unit here will use probably several of them in the different types of groups and projects they're working with. But I have a very positive feeling about open innovation, having worked in this way for 30 years, because it's so beautiful to be in groups of interdisciplinary people working together collaboratively to make and create things which are to go out there. And collaboration in any way, and in open innovation, it does take more time. There is no question. Taking time to speak to each other, to meet, to share, to exchange, takes time. But my 100% better results come from diverse people collaborating together. In my own company, we work all the time in this way. And I won't go into full detail on this slide, but you can see what we're trying to do all the time in our ways of using open innovation, shared ownership, things, flattening hierarchies, trying to keep porous and open, always looking at user-generated and crowdsourced scenarios, is actually to try and get these convergent rings of dynamic participatory interaction mixed into that. There's one area that I really wanted to just put into this group today, which I think is one of the complex areas in collaboration and open innovation, and which does for me clearly link to the issues around social inclusion. And that's what I call the I-we syndrome. Now the I-we syndrome is something that I've seen everywhere across the last 20 years, and I've realised it's quite problematic. The I-we syndrome is that confused and slightly schizophrenic state of doublespeak that happens all the time around collaborations and when people come together or companies come together, etc. to work. It's actually a clever way to cover up what are shallow collaborations or fake open processes. It's when I'm in a group and when I'm in the group, I'm talking we all the time, and otherwise we're doing this and everyone's talking we. But when I leave the group, depending on whether that group is going the way I think it should go or not, I will relate to it either as an I or a we. So I say, well, you know, if it's going well, I'll go, well, we are all doing great, yeah? If it's not going well, I'll say, well, I'm not quite sure about that. They are doing that not so great, yeah? And it's this complex mix between us. We all do it. If you watch yourself for a week, you just keep it, I and we changes all over the place. And it's part of the time we're in. We're in a shift change into the 21st century where collaboration is much more upfront, but we're not yet used to acknowledging it properly. At the deepest part of ourselves, we're often not acknowledging that. When you work collaboratively, you're deeply dependent on the others. The other in the group, the others in the group are there, and at the same time you're adding in your own skills and knowledge. And the I and the we is really the way that we bring together into this middle space all our micro impulses to be activists, to follow through our passions, to really work on something that we see has got a social need or we believe in. Putting that into together, our knowledge, our beliefs, our ideas and our skills, into the middle with everyone else in there. And actually, of course, this methodology needs dedicated participation, it needs strong belief and trust, and it needs creative input from everybody for this to work. So identity clarity, I believe, is very essential when you're working in collaborative group works, because what you bring to the table in that group process and how you offer yourself in and how that's understood by the group in a very personalised way is how we end up with really effective open innovation processes and an environment in which you can move forward. So take great care about your I's and we's. Check yourself out. Have a check across the next week. It's an acknowledgement of a dynamic in any collaboration, and it facilitates develop these more intuitive patterns of behaviour and social positive behaviour and interconnectedness, and that, I believe, is the space where true innovation can emerge from. So how do we ensure effective social inclusion in collaborations? Now, I'm not going to go through every one of these. Most of them you will all know, and I'm sure there's another 30 or 40 that should be up on that list. It could be a much longer talk. But I think I just chose a few which I think are really important. My top line is, don't start on a project around social needs unless you have really researched it well, unless you are deeply involved in that, unless you've got contacts all over the place, you know what's out there already, you really are dealing and actually tailor-making the initiative towards much more community-designed scenario. And be generous about your knowledge exchange and skill sharing. That's imperative in this transfer of skills around each other. And user-driven solutions from the earliest stages, can't emphasise that enough. The number of people that bring in the users far too late in any iteration process. So, 6 weeks in, we'll do a user group. No, do it before you can start the 6 weeks. Yeah, absolutely. Get it there from the beginning of the process. And of course, we need to have an authentic advocacy of shared the stated values of that project. It can't just be, this is what we're doing, social needs, and then you just forget it. Yeah, it's not properly there, layered and authentically put throughout everything you're doing, within your own company, within your own group. Yeah, and these last two are imperatives. Yeah, we need a more and more clear, ethical, non-biased approach to data gathering. Personal data, our data, my data, it's your data, it's your kids' data, it's your grandkids' data. Think about the ethics around it and the transparency of data usage within that. And this will help us extend cultural understandings and trust between each other and hopefully evolve both our self-expressions and our expressions as a group and other people around us. So what we're aiming at, of course, is this win-win situation for everyone. So social need projects need to actually, of course, the startup trying to deal with that problem needs to obviously be able to continue working and pay people and keep the office going. But the community of need that you're dealing with has to be a winner in this whole thing, as do the other partners that are coming in. So investors, funders, etc. coming in. This needs to be a flattened hierarchy of win-win. It can't be that one group out of these many are going to be in the win situation. We need people, resources and processes investment to all come together and to work on these socially inclusive projects and services all together, because basically it is diversity and collaboration is what creates innovation. And I think we really need that message to go much further than here today. There's far too much in very, very non-diverse groups of people creating what they think is innovative. It's not. Yeah, it's not. It's just not. It's not only going to work for those types of people, and it's not breaking through anywhere. So, makers, researchers, investors, customers, participants, your users, all together sharing knowledge and expertise towards new solutions. That's what the social inclusion unit here will aim to enable to happen, so that we're shifting and changing stakeholder scenarios and enabling a social transformation with inclusivity at the core of it. So, just before I finish, two very little flashcard messages, which I know you all know, very common sense but really useful to use. This one, if you can't see it, you can't be it, is actually one of the key symbols of a gender equality movement. It's one of the key phrases from that. But I don't think this is just about gender equality. This is about every type of disadvantaged person or minority scenario, etc. If you can't see yourself in a scenario, you can't see a judge that looks like you can't see a prime minister that looks like you can't see a teacher that looks like you at certain points, then you don't believe you can be it. And so that, I think, is one of the key things in this, is how do we get more variety of people in the whole range of society, so that young people today go, yeah, I can do that. They did it, I can do it. And that's so imperative in the psychological retention. The last slide is actually not particularly aimed at this group, but it's very important to say this into the tech team. The tech team really need to hear this as well. You can't just talk. You can't just go, yes, we've done this in tech, yes, we've done social inclusion, yes, we've done this, This is about walking the walk, and it's a long walk. We know it's not just this year. This is massively long set of work that needs to be done by a lot of people continually and passionately. So don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. And maybe you can say that to anyone that you feel is not actually pulling their weight in the right way. So thank you very much. I'm Ghislaine. I've really enjoyed to come here and do this with you, and I've very much enjoyed looking forward to being on the jury too. So Russell, I'm going to hand over to you now. This is Russell Gundry coming on stage, and you're going to do the next bits, aren't you? So good, great.
We started Tech Week with quite a formal launch, really, by the Prime Minister. And it's an interesting point around where we are democratically, but it's a great moment, I think, for us at Plexal to say Tech Week is being brought to East London. We want to close Tech Week with a very different message of inclusion. And there's this big question mark about what we mean by it because it's such a big word. And the honest answer is I don't really have the answer to that question. But I think that the people in this room might have a reasonable stab at it. And that's the whole point of what we mean by collaboration in this environment. I don't see a person in front of me who actually I don't recognize as being innovative or cares about inclusion or is making a difference. And I think in a similar way to what we're seeing with our democratic processes, we're seeing a similar fork in the road with tech, where it's often suggested to be this amazing panacea that will make things better for everybody. But actually, in the way that it's enacted, often it doesn't. But how do we create technology products, technology services that are based around the needs of real people and real communities? And that's what we want to do here today at Plexal. It's not insignificant that we're sat in the home of the 2012 Olympics. I think it was a great high point for Britain to show that from an Olympian perspective, from a Paralympian perspective, that we could all come together and create this amazing socially fueled event. And what we're here for really at Plexal is to carry on the legacy of that, to make sure that that's part of our social fabric. And on the subject of this fork in the road that we're at, we can either choose to be a technology hub which sits here in a nice building in an ivory tower, or we can choose to welcome people in. A lot of the people sat in this room work together with communities. What we want to do is support those people to have more impact with those communities. As part of that, we're launching an accelerator program which is designed to do exactly that. It's called Open Door. And Open Door is about making the future of work for everybody. So we think that there's a huge opportunity here to make economic impact that works for everyone. And as part of that, we also want to be more informal. So there are people sat in this room who have amazing technology experience, who have great connections with communities, with large organizations, with both. We want to bring all of those things together. So the plan for the day, there's a bit of input up front. We'd like to hear from you. There's an opportunity to sign up for some pitches. Pitches are super informal. So the plan is your 2 minutes on your idea that will impact social inclusion. Nobody's here to judge those pitches apart from the judges, who are here to judge the pitches. We thought it would be a good idea to have an element of competition. We will be awarding slightly arbitrary prizes towards the end. I could anticipate that all of the pitches are going to be amazing. Part of the point of the pitches is to allow you to have real conversations with people. So rather than those forced networking events where we bring people together and say, you know, go and network, and you're kind of thinking, well, why? And who should I go and talk to? So the point here being, come up. Tell us your pitch, tell us your story, tell us what you want to do. Most importantly, tell us about the support that you need. And then for everybody else, go and have conversations. So we really need to engineer that into the process. If you need support from somebody who's got connections, who's got tech experience, who can provide mentorship, let's make that happen. Okay, so we've got a couple of people to hear from first. There's some, I think, quite inspiring stories from partners, friends here at Plexal. Mete Coban is a councillor for Stoke Newington and also the chief executive of My Life, My Say, a hugely innovative charity that works to promote social inclusion. So we'll hear a few minutes from Mete on how can a charity make a real impact. Mete, over to you.
Thank you very much. Is it working? Yeah, okay. Just to introduce, firstly, I want to say a massive thank you to Russell and the team at Plexal for all the great work you're doing with the social inclusion unit. I think, I'll tell you a bit about how we came about with the social inclusion unit, but I think without you guys on board, it definitely would have been possible. So we should definitely give a massive round of applause to Russell and the team here. Just to introduce myself, firstly, I've got a few different hats on. So as Russell said, I'm a councillor here in Stonington, which is my home. Hackney used to be a very different place to it is now. 15, 20 years ago, it was a place where if someone offered you a property for free, you would have run the other way, whereas now it's difficult to get into Hackney. I'm also the chair of the Skills Economy Growth Commission in Hackney, which looks at employment skills and business engagement. I run a charity called My Life, My Say, which I'm going to talk to you about, which is about empowering young people to participate in democracy. And I used to also be the head of youth engagement for the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. So both making sure that his manifesto was reflective for young Londoners, and secondly, making sure that young people turned out to register to vote. I guess, I've only got a few minutes, so I don't want to sort of waffle on forever, but I guess, this question about social inclusion and how we embed it into My Life, My Say. Firstly, it starts with definitions. I'm a real strong advocate of making sure that we get the definitions right, because sometimes people say, forget the detail, let's go out there and do the work. But definitions do matter because they drive what your work and your activities go forward. So even when people say to me, how do you engage with young people? I always say the question's wrong from the get-go, because it's assuming that young people are one big homogenous group. You're forgetting the different intersectionalities that exist within it. You're forgetting that, for example, like me as a young Muslim of Turkish heritage from Hackney, I face very different challenges to someone who may be a young BME woman from, a different part of thing, and they may face more challenges than me, and everyone has their own unique code and everyone has their own unique story. So it's so important that when we think about inclusion, we think about it in context of everyone's lived experiences. I come from Northern Cyprus, which is not recognized as a state. When I first arrived in the UK when I was 2, we faced 7 deportation notices to be deported back to Northern Cyprus. And, thankfully, we had the opportunity as a family here to continue residing here, and obviously very grateful for the opportunities that I've been granted. But the whole concept of inclusion and making sure that young people involved in politics, particularly in decision making, for me, it's really important. Because actually, when you look at some of the biggest issues that affect young people in London and in the UK, when you look at the fact that there are 4 million people in this country who are working but are in work poverty, the average first-time buyer of a property is 39. The average first-time buyer of a property spends 420 grand on a new property. More than 60% of Londoners who rent spend more than half of their income just on rent. Rail fares have gone up by 34% since 2010. If you put all the patients waiting to be operated on within the NHS on ambulances, it will stretch the west coast of the UK. These are some huge growing social problems that we have here, which disproportionately affect our generation. And it's so important that we have a say in those decision-making processes. So I guess how we approach social inclusion from My Life, My Say's perspective, our approach has always been, rather than creating a space and expecting them to come to us, it's about identifying where young people go to in their day-to-day social and digital lives and think about how we connect with them. So again, I come from a footballing background where I used to be a scout for Arsenal and Southampton. Hopefully there's no Spurs fans in the room. But one of the things that we do, sorry that you lost the Champions League final. No, I'm joking. No, you done well this year. Probably better than us now, unfortunately. But anyway, one of the things that we do is we work with the FA and the Premier League, because the football clubs have community foundations which work with so many boys and girls from disadvantaged communities around employment skills. And for us, it's so important that we connect with those sorts of groups to think about how we're supporting them. Again, we work with an organisation called Catch 22 in Portsmouth, which work with young boys and girls who are either at risk of being not in education, employment training, or who are currently. And that way we're able to hyper-target and really focus our activities. So we're not just just randomly going out there and sort of speaking to any young person who may not necessarily need help. And one of the things that we do to convene young people is we organise something called Democracy Cafes, which basically is a national partnership that we have with Starbucks. And the idea is basically bringing together 30 to 40 young people together in coffee houses and really over Frappuccino talking about politics without feeling the need to wear a suit, or without feeling the need to when you go into a formal institution where you feel intimidated by those around you. And it's very participant-led. So a lot of what what you were talking about, Elena, in your opening speech around making sure that actually the users are actually driving the activities, so it's not the other way around. And it's really about trying to identify where to go to. Another example I'll give you is we worked with Tinder and Uber in the run-up to the 2017 elections. So when you were swiping left or right, for example, so we were part of a campaign called Turn Up, which was a collaboration of us, an organisation called Bite the Ballot, and a few other organisations. And as you were swiping left or right, you got a notification to say if you want to register to vote, swipe right. Same thing with Uber. If you were waiting for a cab, you would have got a notification in the first 3 minutes to say register to vote, and that was targeted at all 18 to 24-year-olds. So there are lots of different things that you can do within your activities to really make sure that you're catering it for those who you're able to reach. But at the core of it, your team has to be reflective of the types of people you're trying to reach. So we're a youth-led charity, so everyone who works for the charity is young. We've all got different lives and different stories, and it's so important that your team has that diversity. Otherwise, if you don't have that, you could all sit there, agree with each other about what you think, but ultimately, you need those different voices. So I guess, look, I'm really looking forward to hearing some of the pitches today. Thank you, Russell, for having me here today, and look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you.
So thank you, Mete. So that's a really different idea about how a charity can work, and critically, how do we involve young people? Because I think we've seen, democratically are underrepresented. And a bit of nuance there about what does that actually mean. It's not a binary thing about being a young person then and not something else. To represent a very different perspective, what can a bank do? What can a bank do? And to answer that question, Alistair Drew-Yeates is the Barclays Eagle Labs lead. Alistair, over to you.
Thank you, Russell. A clap for a banker, that's a new one. Thank you. So Alistair Drew-Yeates, Ecosystem Manager for Barclays Eagle Labs, which will be opening behind these walls in 4 weeks' time, but more on that later. Can I just see how many people in this room have been to a branch in the last 4 weeks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not many. So let me go back and give you a bit more context around Eagle Labs and why I'm standing here and where we've been and how Barclays kind of come into social inclusion and innovation. So about 7, 8 years ago, we were shifting a lot of customers to online banking and mobile banking. And that's a hard thing to do. So the bank thought it'd be really cool. This new technology was invented and iPads came out. So a bank being a bank thought, let's throw loads of money at this new tech and everybody's just going to adopt it and everything's going to be happy. And everybody's going to move to online banking and that's going to be great. So we brought 8,000 iPads from Apple, which was the biggest single purchase ever. And we sent them across the branch network, across the branch managers, the mortgage advisors, relationship managers. And we said, here, now you've got the technology, have conversations with your customers. The stats come back, very, very low usage. No one's taken up, no one started going online. And we had to start trying to think, why was that? Why, when we gave everybody the latest technology to have the conversations, why weren't they kind of engaging with it? And we realized that it's a skills gap. Because we just assume that because you give them the latest technology or the latest piece of innovation, people are just going to adopt it because it's cool. Doesn't happen. So we created a team initially of 14 people where we started traveling around the country to go into the branches, region by region, and created what we call digital eagles. Eagles for Barclays, digital for obvious reasons. And it was our duty to start to educate our staff because we realized most of the iPads were being used for BBC iPlayer, Facebook, or tea coasters. Or they just sat in a drawer, even worse. I don't mind tea. So we went across and we started teaching our staff how to use iPads. What is this technology? This is the day when we didn't have mobile first. This is pre-mobile first. There was no iPhone, So then we realized we have to empower the staff. We have to take them on that journey. And this is people of all different ages. If you take this room, if you imagine, this is like Barclays staff behind the scenes. in there dressed down, relaxing. So from that, we realized our staff have these problems, our customers have these problems as well. If our staff fear digital and don't understand what transformation is in that space, everybody's got that problem. And a bank has a responsibility. Obviously, we're always branded as the bad guys, and understandably for past things. But we started looking at it differently. Once you empower your staff and do the digital transformation through them, then we did the same for our customers. So we thought, let's start engaging with our customers differently. So we put, over a space of a weekend, we put broadband. We brought the biggest bandwidth possible from BT. And we put Wi-Fi in every single branch across the country. Over a single weekend, we became the biggest single provider of Wi-Fi in Europe. Now it's Zara, the clothes brand, funnily enough. Strange. And then we realized we had kids coming into branches. It was like, kids don't go into banks. Like, grandmas might give you a check every now and again, but no one really goes into branches. Obviously, some people here do. So we realized, well, the kids need the education. You know, they just pick up an iPad and they're coding on Facebook and things like that. And it was around the time David Cameron was talking about, okay, we need to drive skills in Britain. Funnily enough, Theresa's saying the same thing on Monday. Where's the digital skills? Where's the digital skills? We've been talking about this for years and years and years. And us as a corporate, you know, we take that responsibility. Say, yeah, we do need the skills. The kids got given microbits. Anyone familiar with microbits? Cool, we've got a few of them. Great, I'll be talking to you later, sir. I see you at the back. But the problem is, so all the school kids, I think it was year 7s, got given microbits. A small bit of hardware, powerful enough that kind of cracked the codes of the world wars and things like that. All of the kids, I think around year 7, got given a BBC microbit. But it didn't empower the teachers to teach the kids. So what happened? Like our iPads, they just sat in a drawer. Useless. So then the kids were coming in, so we said, okay, let's take the time. Our digital eagles have already trained themselves. Okay, let's help the kids. So we started working with Coder Dojo and created Code Playground. And we started teaching young kids how to code. So we got bean bags, everybody dressed down, and we ran a series of events. And they still run to this day. And that was great. And then we realized, what about the silver surfers? The people that fear the internet, that don't want a mobile phone. I was telling my girlfriend Angelica at the front, hey baby. I was telling her the other day, I had one colleague, and she said she was 60 years old. She didn't have a mobile phone. She just about used our electronic systems in the bank. And she said, I do not want a mobile phone. I don't want to be involved in this. I don't care. I don't want to talk about it. That took 6 weeks to get her around and understand what is it. Because how often do we explore the real problem? You know, we always look at the tip of the iceberg, but never go underneath the surface, right? And I think it's great, the social inclusion units forming this is helping us get to the deeper rooted problem. So we started educating the older generation. And when you see someone that's never had a mobile phone and you teach them about Google, to us that seems like everyday talk or usage. But she used to turn her till around and she used to tell customers, do you know there's this thing called Goggle? And you can type in a question and it gives you an answer. And people used to look at me like, who's this woman? But people don't realize the technology. And I think that's kind of where we're at now, right? Is we talk about Industry 4.0 and 3D printing, artificial intelligence, machine learning. What was it? 3 days ago, I was speaking to Nana from Badu. And if you haven't never met Nana or any of the Badu team, whatever generation it is, go have a chat with them, please. Really inspirational. But Nana was talking to, was it a group of 7-year-olds? And you can talk about the stats of the number of kids, I think it was at age 7, that would carry a knife for protection. 7-year-olds. And even saying it, like, that's scary. And then you ask them, how many people know about AI? No one. And you just say, okay, what's our responsibility now? So I guess that takes us to Eagle Labs. So I'll go back to it. So you do digital training for the younger generation, you prepare them. For the older generation, because we can't segregate people, right? We have to include people in this. We can't leave anyone behind. And then we help business customers by keeping them safe online. So we did cybersecurity stuff, just, keeping ahead of the bad guys. And then we realized we started having empty spaces in our branches, because you imagine we have lots of real estate. People aren't really going into branches nowadays. Most transactions are done in a branch. What do we do with those branches? So we met Tony Fish from Fab Labs, and we had this crazy idea that we would put 3D printers and laser cutters and vinyl cutters in those branches and start talking about the circular economy. Which, how many people are familiar with the circular economy? This is why I love being here. So you can imagine what it was like for Barclays talking about circular economy. You'd be like, huh? I know you're looking at me like, what? So for us, that to do with 3D printing, when you're talking about designing products and things like that, how are we looking about our relationship with products and things we buy and how we consume? Because we just buy, throw away, and we don't think about sustainability and what that does to the planet. So when we're designing products, are we designing it from cradle to grave or cradle to cradle? But that's a whole education piece, because you don't get taught that kind of things in school. So Eagle Labs started opening up spaces in their branches and bringing the public in and giving people access to hardware that usually you wouldn't have access to by running workshops and events. Some of the 3D printers and laser cutters cost up to £40,000. It's just not cheap technology. So what we've been doing, and now we have 24 across the country, is educating people around hardware development, supporting startups, whether you're pre-seed, you just have an idea and you go, ow, I think I have an idea, but I don't know how to do it. Great, let's sit down, let's have a coffee and work it through. Right to, do you know what, I need to raise 10 million and I want to go overseas and scale up. And I'm going from 10 people to 100 people. How do we do that? As a bank, we've got 320 years of experience and a network like crazy. So utilize the bank as much as you can. You don't have to bank with us. That is the best thing. You don't have to be a customer. If you do, great. But the aim is, how do we support? So there's 3 pillars for Eagle Labs: accelerating UK businesses and helping them to scale. Second one, see people write notes. Enabling collaborative innovation. So we work with universities, corporates, and we share information. What can the startups learn from the corporates? What can the corporates learn from the startups? And then the third one is around Industry 4.0. In this day and age, what are we doing to educate the next generation, and even if the slightly older generations, about what's happening today? What is IoT and AI? So in 4 weeks' time when we open, we're going to be running workshops that people are more than welcome to attend. They're free, and we'll start demystifying some of these technologies. And for those people that are using those technologies, then let's come together and hopefully solve some of the issues that we're all aware of. Cool. My name's Alistair. Feel free to come and grab me afterwards and have a chat. Thank you.
There was a second part to Al's presentation, which I think we're starting to get into this pitching here a little bit. But what we want to see here is collaboration, and as a story of that collaboration, the work that Al is doing the work with Sean. So Sean, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Where do I start? Okay. So my story kind of started unofficially about 9 years ago, when I was attacked whilst I was away studying business, and unfortunately I developed epilepsy. Although that was kind of a bad thing, about 5 years ago I started getting involved with Microsoft, started working on a project, and the story of how I got there, you'll hear about more and more soon through Barclays Eagle Labs anyway, and through Barclays. But long story short, I actually had this idea that because I have epilepsy, I had a device inside my chest that monitored my heart rate, because I have 3 different heart conditions. One causes me to have pauses, so my heart stops, everything stops beating, it completely shuts down, and then spontaneously starts back up again. Sometimes it unfortunately doesn't. But what we learned through that device was it was able to detect difference between an epileptic seizure and a cardiac event. Now, one great idea I had bouncing around in my head and just consistently bouncing there, and particularly the one thing that kind of sent that seed rolling was actually through a meeting with Microsoft, where somehow I managed to stumble my way into the then UK CEO of Microsoft, now European President of Microsoft, lots and lots of the UK Microsoft management team. Through one of our many, many meetings, my dad kind of came out with this idea of where we started looking at how do we use wearable technology, how do we use all these different types of devices, how do we use remote monitoring to monitor these different conditions, but to also give me independence and to give others like me that independence. Because unfortunately, for the past 5 years, I've been unable to go anywhere on my own, in particular, more so the past 3 years, because unfortunately, over the years, I've been on the missing person list twice. I've pretty much done a hospital tour of every hospital in the UK, done ambulance service tours, you name it, I've done it. Unfortunately, I haven't yet got the perks from them. I haven't yet managed to come up with a loyalty card, but hey-ho, we'll get there. But what ended up happening, my dad actually had this idea that if I could plant a chip in Sean, if I could tag him like a dog, I'd know he was safe. And that all came because someone at Microsoft actually said to me, well, we're scratching our heads right now, how do we help? If we could do something right now, if we could wave a magic wand, if we could give you something to help him, what would that be? My dad came up with this idea of, actually, if I could tag him like a dog, then I'd know he was safe because I'd get alerts, I'd get notifications. So that kind of sent something ticking in my brain and sent me thinking, okay, how do I do this? What can I do with this? At first, it was just kind of a joke. And then it got to a stage where I started thinking, how do I use wearable technology? How do I use the Internet of Things? And me being someone that come from an IT background, doing an IT apprenticeship, my dream ever since I was a child was to be a paramedic. Unfortunately, because of my conditions, I can't. That's sadly not possible because, unfortunately, due to health and safety reasons, it's not advisable for me to be driving an ambulance because a guy driving an ambulance, shaking at the wheel, people are going to be looking, going, hang on, what's he doing driving an ambulance? And then me attending to patients whilst I'm having a seizure. Unfortunately, the tech doesn't yet exist for me to do that. So it was a case of how do I use my knowledge, how do I use my experience, how do I use my expertise to help others? And I started thinking about how do we use technology? And that was basically how the device that we developed was born. So it's actually named in honor of my dad, actually, and we call it Daddy Watch. So it's kind of based on the idea of Big Brother, based on the idea of CCTV, but also brings so much more besides that, because it's not just about monitoring patients, it's about giving the independence. It's also about bringing together all this different data to actually understand what's going on with someone. But then more importantly, it's about the ability to tell people when I'm having a seizure, to tell them, okay, don't panic, the calmer you stay, and actually linking very nicely with a campaign I did with Epilepsy Society called Calm, Cushion, Cool. It's all about teaching people, how do I help someone when they're having a seizure? If I don't know what to do, how do I help? Simple things, remain calm, listen to the advice that the device is telling you, listen to all the stuff that the amazing team from Eagle Labs and from Barclays have actually helped me to do so far. And we're just continuing to get better and better every day. And actually, to be honest, I can't thank Eagle Lab team enough. And in particular, my engineer from Brighton, who actually managed, because of logistical challenges, managed to get me kind of grandfathered status here at Plexal. And my device was actually born here. And it will forever live here, and it will grow here. So that's pretty much all I can say really at the moment, other than I can't thank Plexal high enough, I can't thank Barclays enough. Without them, I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am. And without them, I don't want to think about what would happen to me, because unfortunately, I can't go anywhere on my own. I don't have the ability to travel anywhere safely on my own. My dad goes everywhere with me. The joke he uses is he's my human assistance dog. Every time I fall down, he has to pick me up. So it's a case of how do I help myself, but how do I help others? And how do I use technology? How do I use my knowledge? How do I use my expertise to help others? And that's what's driving me. That's what I really want to do. And that's what Eagle Lab is actually helping me to do. So what else can I say, really?
Thank you. So just to explain, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Alan Sean. So Alan Sean came to me about 5 minutes before we started and said, actually, it would make a lot more sense for us to tell this story together because this is how we're working together. And that actually seemed to make a lot more sense. You've really heard a few pitches, essentially, from me describing how a tech hub can work to hopefully support inclusion, from Mete describing what a charity that represents young people might be able to do, what Al describing what a bank is trying to do, and from Sean describing how he's built innovation on top of that. And what we want to do now is hear from you. So the plan is lightning pitches. I hope it's not necessary to say that it's a safe space. The purpose of this really is to drive collaboration. So the questions that we're asking people are, what's your idea? What impact is it going to have? What support do you need? That's pretty much it. Plan is, if you've got a pitch, if you'd like to tell your story, please come and visit the fabulous Diane. She's already got a list of pitches up there. I think we could see more pitches on there. Plan is that those pitches will be lightning quick, around about 2 minutes each. If it is getting a little bit too long, then Farah here we'll give you a little polite time card. I'd like to introduce you to the judging panel. We thought that it would be better to have an element of theatre, at least, even though, as I say, it is a safe space. You've already met Ghislaine. I'd like to introduce you to Prash, who is an entrepreneur and residence and an innovation lead. Farah, who manages the Open Door program. So these people will be providing you with feedback. Of course, one of the most important things is that you use this as an opportunity to meet each other to get the support that you need. I think you've probably heard enough from me now, and I think we need a bit more of a sense of energy. There isn't a better person to provide that than Follow, who leads multiple innovation programs here at Plexal. Follow, over to you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to be working with Diane. So we're essentially Ant and Dec right now, introducing each of the presenters onto the stage. So who have we got first? Ben, where are you? Brilliant. Hi, Ben. Before you begin, just tell us a bit about yourself. How can people reach you if they want to collaborate with you?
So my name is Ben Wolf. I'm the Director of Operations at FIT. We're based here in Plexal. And actually, we've just built our new TV studio where we film all of our content just the other side of that wall. You can contact me by email. Email address is very simple. It's ben@fit.tv, and that's fit with 2 I's. Or you can search for me on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. So your 2 minutes begins whenever you're ready.
Okay, so hello. Like I said, I'm Director of Operations at FIT, and we are on a mission to disrupt the fitness industry and keep everybody moving. So did you know that the average gym membership is only used 13 times per year, and 73% of fitness goals are missed or just dropped? Currently, 62% of adults in the UK are either overweight or obese, and there was another report this week saying 1 in 6 deaths in the UK is due to inactivity. So quite simply, the current fitness offerings in the UK or even globally are just not working for people. They are boring, they're out of date, they're expensive, they're inaccessible for many people. So we see a new category of fitness emerging, connected fitness classes. Peloton, some of you might have heard of them, the bike that you can go on and you can do the class at home. They're doing a great job, but it's £2,000 for a bike, which isn't very inclusive if you don't have £2,000 to spend on a bike to put in your home. So we're trying to do a similar thing, but make it much more accessible for people. So you can download our app for the best experience. You connect the app through to the TV, and you've got access to hundreds of classes from the best trainers in the UK, very soon with commercial music. But the really unique thing about it, and I think it's really engaging, is that you get one of these with it. You connect it round to your chest, and you see all your statistics and all your metrics live on the screen while you're working out in front of you. We've got a big launch coming up in a week's time, actually, where very soon you'll be able to compete with people live in the class with an interactive leaderboard. So we will not really rest until we have broken down every single barrier that people have to fitness. We want fitness to turn from a chore into a habit, into a healthy addiction for people. And we want everyone to be able to access fitness and achieve their goals, whether they are a stay-at-home parent, whether you work long hours, whether you don't have much money. In fact, we're relatively affordable, but even so, we released a free version of the app only a few months ago so that anybody can access Fit. If you don't live near a gym, if you have trouble with motivation because going to the gym and seeing a treadmill just isn't very interesting, or if you're not very body confident, for instance, and you don't want to work out in a lycra in front of other people. So we really are on a mission to get everybody moving and into fitness and active across the world, get everyone healthier. And the support that we need really is we want everyone to go on, give it a go. We are the best rated app in the whole of the App Store. You guys will love it. So go and give it a go. If you love it, tell your friends. The other way we can be supported is we're only an iOS app at the moment. We are developing our Android app at the moment, and we are trying to accelerate that as quickly as possible. So if anyone knows any fantastic Android developers or any communities that we can contact where we can get access to Android developers, let us know.
Thank you, Ben.
Who am I handing to next?
We'll have to ask Diane for that. Hi, Lena, welcome. Please tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Lena Chohan, and I'm the co-founder of Rise IQ. Our mission is to create a space where not a physical space, create a digital application where everybody from the age of 7 to the age of 80 or 90 can adapt to technology and get awareness and preventative strategies for dementia and other symptoms of cognitive decline. I come from a financial background. I was a banker for 20 years, and through chance, fortune, or just my call to a bigger purpose, I became a carer to my loved ones. And what I realised is that what was out there, this was 3 years ago, was abysmal, and the training wasn't strong enough, considering it affects so many people. In fact, it's predicted that 1 in 2 of us, half of us, will have dementia by the age of 80. So it's quite a huge statistic, but ultimately there wasn't enough out there to create conversations to make people even understand what dementia was. People got scared of it, and what we fear and what we don't understand, we don't manage and we don't deal with. So my web app actually creates this understanding in simple lay language so that every single person can understand what it's about and therefore learn how to manage it positively. How to speak to their elders, how to speak to their children. And also, it's a plan to create preventative strategies using behaviour change so that people can actually easily change habits and build onto existing habits so they can include health changes to their life, make positive changes to their lives by lifestyle, diet, exercise, all the very commonsensical things. But people don't do that. They need nudges, and they need someone to push them in the right direction with guidance. So that's what we aim to do. I also give many talks to the BAME communities, large communities, and that's where I find is a big hole in understanding. They're really scared to have the dialogue. Lots of it is fear from how they will be judged. A lot of them think that they'll be judged as mental or going mad, and their loved ones will just want to put them in a home. So this has been a huge challenge for me to try and break down barriers, and it can't happen by just my organisation. I believe it happens in lots and lots of little silos to create the type of village feeling. I want communities to have empathy and look after their own. So we get back to the village looking after you, as opposed to being so connected on the phone but completely disconnected. The support I'm looking for is actually any of you who have connections where you think there are these lack of understanding, communities that have lack of understanding, or that even need a slight push to open up the dialogue. I'd also appreciate contacts in technology. We built our own MVP, and we tested it heavily. But that being said, what it actually showed us was that it was a nice to have. I need to make this an essential, that people can use it and as an addition to their existing habit. So it has to be jolted onto a habit that already exists for them to even make a change. So any of those areas that you'd be able to help me, or even if you want me to run dementia information sessions within any of your organisations, including corporates, including corporates, please let me know. I'm on lena@riseiq.com. Very last minute, sorry.
Thank you very much, Lena. Who do we have next, Diane?
Can we now welcome to the stage Louise Power, who is pitching iOrbit.
As she comes on stage, Louise is based here at Plexal. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Louise Power. I'm the founder and CEO of iOrbit. We offer business solutions to entrepreneurs and SMEs here.
And then you're ready to go.
I'm a single mother, and I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, and I've had to overcome a lot of obstacles along the way. And, within the tech industry, it's only taken up by 70% of women. And, I think that's a really big issue that we all need to pull together to tackle. And what iOrbit aims to do is to empower and upskill women and make them feel confident and more socially included so that they can apply for these roles. I think it's really important that we all do that. And, where do I plan to start? Well, I plan to start right here in Plexal, where I'm based. I'm based here in professional services, and a lot of these people here are my friends and colleagues. And I plan to start here by creating a talent pool within the London boroughs of Newham, Tower Hamlets, Hackney, and Waltham Forest. So what is it that, we really need? Well, the first thing we need to do is to some commitment for employment opportunities. And the second thing is investment. Investment so that these women can get the development and training that they really need. I'm in their shoes, and I'm a BAME woman, and I understand the struggles that it is that we have to overcome, and I really hope that today, you will all follow me on that plight and have some conversations, how we can all come together to go forward. Thank you.
Before you head off stage, Louise, how can people find you?
You can find me here over in professional services. I'm based here, or on email at louise@iorbit.org.uk.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that.
We now have Jan, who's going to talk to us about the Basketball Development Programme.
Welcome, Jan. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jan. I'm currently a second-year university student at Aston University. I study international relations and social policy, and I work for Badoo Sports when I'm not at university. So I'm going to tell you a bit about my proposal for a basketball development program within Hackney. So, like I said before, I'm at university at the moment, and when I'm not, I work with Badoo community within basketball, within schools, with a lot of young people. I've been playing basketball for as long as I can remember. And I've had fun doing so. I've participated in a lot of competitions, London Youth Games for my borough, etc., etc. But I realized that when I got to about the age of 15 and 16, I saw that there was a lack of opportunity to go forward within the sport. Now, unlike a sport like football, where there is so much opportunity for young players to go forward, to play for different leagues, different teams, there's not a lot of that in basketball. But it is an up-and-coming sport, especially within young people in participation. So what we want to do to combat that is create a basketball development program which not only trains young people within basketball, but mentors them in working in and around the sport. We wish to, like I said, mentor them, point them in the right direction and give them a bit more information where before there was a lack of for someone like myself. Like you said before, if you can't see it, you can't be it. I'm 21 now. When I was 15, 16, at that age, I didn't really see it, not because of a lack of ability, but because of a lack of accessibility. We want to be able to link with other organizations within the UK, outside the UK, and give young people those opportunities that I did not have. There's so much talent here in the UK. We've put on a number of tournaments, a number of training sessions, things like that, and we see that there is a lot of talent, but they don't know where to go. Trying to go to a international organization will cost excess of £1,000 just for a young player to attend a camp with professional scouts, coaches, to try and get them to where they want to be. I'm sure that not many of you could name many basketball teams in the British Basketball League, because it's not as big in the UK as we want it to be. So we need our players to get out of the UK and play somewhere else. So an opportunity for some sort of investment to start this up, to build our links, our contacts. We have some already. We have the players, we have the talent. We just need to get out there and show that we can compete on the world stage. So thank you.
How can people find you?
So I work for Badu Sports, like I said. You can find us on Instagram at Badu Sports, at Badu_sports_, and on Twitter at Badu Sports, one word. You can see some of all the kind of events that we do and the things that we do for the community. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
So up next is Marcella with Food for Thought.
Welcome, welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello. My name is Marcella, and I'm a creative and art director at an advertising agency called Publicly Spoke, and I'm also the founder of Food for Thought. As a creative in advertising especially, I always wanted to find a way to actually bring change and make a difference in the world. And after a few ideas that I had, I kind of really wanted to. I heard lots of other people who had the same issue in the advertising agencies and really wanted to make a difference. And then on the other hand, there is also charities who need help, who might not be able to actually afford agency services. So I came up with this idea called Food for Thought, which is an initiative that asks people in advertising agencies to donate their lunch break and skills to help a charity who wouldn't be able to afford agency services. It could be a charity or it could be a social business as well. The core is that they make a difference in the world. So in case anyone has an idea that needs some advertising agency services, like a logo redesign or some social campaigns, grab me and speak to me, and we can try and organize a workshop in different agencies. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcella. Are you on Instagram, Twitter, email?
Yes. So you can contact me at hello@foodforthought.space or Instagram at FFT_space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go to the next person, if there is anyone else who wants to sign up, do come and see me and we'll add your name to the list. Next we have Lawrence from Pro Bike Service.
It's over here. Hi, Lawrence. Tell us a bit about yourself and how to get in contact.
Hi there. I think I'm going to give a slightly different pitch, largely listening to Ghislaine's opening. My name is Lawrence Mohammed. I run a social enterprise called Pro Bike Service CIC. Essentially, I'll talk about the business very quickly. I turned a shipping container into a solar-powered off-grid bike workshop. You can put one of these on a regeneration site, a meanwhile use, an underutilised site. In that period of development, regeneration or meanwhile use, you can support a growing number of safe cyclists, but also you can build very strong communities. And what's embedded in the business is moving us towards a regenerative and truly sustainable society. So a couple of principles of the business. It works on a gift economy. We give what we do, and people can gift us in return. It created loads of strange looks and critical looks when I started doing that. It's also 100% renewable powered. We're moving towards zero waste. We don't want to externalise waste. And everything's open source. There's no copyright on anything we do. And again, I'll kind of talk about why I did this. Firstly, we're a cycling training and servicing business. So we service bikes, we build bikes, we gift bikes to victims of bike crime, and we're looking at intervention methods for tackling the roots of those issues. But going back to the opening from Ghislaine, we're talking about otherness and separateness, and we're talking about social exclusion here. All of us have prejudices. All of us have, kind of things that are ingrained in us from our conditioning where we see the other. And if we look out at the deeper world, to overcome climate change, to overcome all these externalities, we need to work more closely together, and we need to take responsibility, not only for ourselves, but every action and every non-action within our power, within our communities. Where I want to kind of go off topic a little bit here is, I was brought up in a very deprived borough. Also had a lot of racism in the borough. I saw a couple of friends murdered in my early 20s. I've had 3 suicide attempts in my life. And for the early part of my childhood, I didn't feel that I fitted in. I didn't feel that society cared about me. And I didn't feel that I was part of society. So what I did, I just hung about with the toughest kids that could look after me. I'd do their homework for them and things like that. And we developed our coping strategies and coping mechanisms, which in my 20s culminated in a cocaine addiction, and it culminated in a crystal meth addiction. And through subsequent work on myself, I reframed all of that. I looked at what I was doing to cope rather than what I was doing to, kind of who I could be and what I could do, and I reframed all that. So what I'd say is never write anyone off. And if we're going to demonise anything in society, we should demonise behaviour and never individuals, because they're completely separate. What do I want from today, and what am I pitching for, I guess? So, like I say, everything we do is open source. I started this with no money and a loan and just a blind leap of faith. But we've had solicitors, accountants, programmers, graphic designers, parts, bikes, money, an amazing team now, 6 volunteers that are gifting towards us to help us to get where we are. We've been really lucky to partner with the University of Arts London, with Loughborough London for their collaborative project last year. Obviously, Here East, Plexal, Get Living London, IQL, Hackney Wick and Fish Island, lots of businesses there. And it's through collaboration, it's through working together and sharing freely, gifting, looking at the needs and looking at how we can work together as communities to get us to where we want to go that we need to focus on. I'm not sure how long I've got left. I'm guessing it's time's up. Great. Okay. Thanks ever so much. It's law@probikeservice.co.uk. The website is probikeservice.co.uk. If you can help out with anything kind of in the community, whether it's cycling or otherwise, just get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We now have Chris Jones with a picture paints 1,000 words.
Hi, Chris. Hello. Welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself. How can we find you?
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Jones. You can find me. I've started a company and a business, and I call it ISAW, ISAW, which is an acronym for Imaginatively Superior Artwork. I'm a one-man operation, but I've been working at this business for 11 years, and ultimately, the old cliche of a picture paints 1,000 words, I've decided to take a new spin on it. 60 seconds about what I do and what I'm trying to do. My company, myself, I wish to actually communicate and engage with people. Art is something that is very generic, it's very big, very broad, and there's different courses for different horses with their preferences. But how I feel about art is something that I wish to be able to re-engage people. Sometimes it could be a simple thing as a message beside a picture. If a person actually sort of stops, takes a moment notice of it, goes on their day, but they're thinking about it, I've got you. If it's a matter of just lifting the human spirit, something that's quite delightful but not offensive, you're thinking about it, I've got you. My experience in a very quick sense is that I walked into a gallery once. The moment I walked in through the door, I scanned and processed the room, nothing engaged with me, and I was done before I hit the middle. So I was on my heels and I was back out. So I wanted to turn that around and turn that into something that the art I wish to see, the art I wish to be engaged with is something that I'm going to do, not expect other people to do and look for it. Overall, what I'm looking for is for anybody who has ideas, who wishes to use my creativity, to be able to try and get messages across. A current work I've just done is with knife crime. I've done some artwork with knife crime, and I've just finished one to do with mental health awareness. And all of this actually came about, the social inclusion side of things, was a magistrate's judge approached me and asked me to get involved with knife crime. Yes, no problem, I said, kind of grinning my teeth, thinking, I hope she doesn't keep on asking me. But every time I heard on the news there was another stabbing, and worse still, another young one died, what she said to me kept going around in my head. So I decided to do something. So if you have any ideas, if you want to bounce ideas, I'm available to talk to. If you have lonely walls or an open space, you wish to just have something creative put there to make people think, that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. Just re-engage people so it's not just dead people walking around, head full of nothing and nothing sensible to think about. Very quickly, my thoughts on social inclusion, as I just mentioned, because a judge asked me to get involved, I think social inclusion is something whereby we are undoing the things that have already led people to believe and feel they're excluded, they're unwanted or unloved. For me, it's something whereby if a person doesn't feel basic human respect, then they're going to feel unwanted. Governments, businesses, people, they follow where the money goes. And those who are looking after these people tend to just leave them in their wake because the finances says that's a burden. Social inclusion for me is making these people think, what are they doing? Making these people feel, look behind you. Who have you left in your wake in the pursuit of money, but a human doesn't even get basic respect? It's all about making people think, engaging the brain, and trying to help people to appreciate you don't have to stop. But at the end of the day, if that thought is in your head and you've taken that with you in your day, then a picture can paint 1,000 words, and that's what I intend to do. Thank you for listening.
Very much, Chris. Is there anywhere online where we can see some of your work?
Yes. My website is isaw.company. And if you wish to reach me or wish to speak to me afterwards, I'll be here. But you can also reach me on contact@isaw.company. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Next up, we have Justin with Just In IT.
Welcome, Justin.
Who's next?
Well, I'll let you decide.
Let's get ready to rumble. Hi there. So my name's Justin, and I'm a techie. What does that mean? We make stuff. We build stuff. So a couple of years ago, me and my friends, we were at a hackathon, actually in this room. We got very, very drunk. That's another story. But we built something. We built a blockchain for beer to be moved from one place to another, and you can actually track its actual journey from the barley to the actual making of the can. We actually put that out, and someone took our idea, but it was great doing it. Now what we do, we just build stuff. It's really fun. We're actually in Shoreditch at the moment, and we're just developers, makers, and designers. So if you've got any products or any ideas that you need to get off the ground, let us know, and we can help you. Thanks very much. And you can Google me.
So if they just Google Justin IT, you're the top one?
Possibly. No, Justin Grierson, if you Google that, Grierson.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Can we now welcome Geeta from Action for Children?
Excellent. Welcome, welcome. Tell us
Thank
about
you.
yourself. How can we find you?
Amazing. So, hi, I'm Geeta from Action for Children. You can find me on LinkedIn, Geeta Action for Children. I'm the only one. Also, you can email me at geeta.luz@actionforchildren.org.uk. And since you already have my email, if you take a picture, can you email it to me, please, so I can prove to my team that I've actually gone and done this. Thank you. So I just want to talk about Action for Children. It's a UK children's charity. We've turned 150 years old this year. And guess what? The problems are getting worse. So just the stats of how things are happening for kids in the UK. You've seen kind of headlines on poverty that are coming out from UN reports. We know from being on the ground that kind of one children's center a week closes down in kind of local places and doesn't reopen due to government cuts. The BBC published an article from the UN yesterday saying that the UK is one of the worst places in Europe for paid parental leave, and where the only people behind us in Europe are Cyprus, Greece, and Switzerland. So the bar is very low, but we've got a lot that we can do. So our vision is a safe and happy childhood for every kid in the UK, and parents who feel like they're being supported. So I'm particularly passionate about supporting inclusive workplaces for working parents. So you can see that, one, I'm very invested in the idea, but also I don't think that we have to choose between having a career and being happy and present parents and seeing our children grow. So some of the products that we're working on at the moment that we'd love to get your thoughts and feedback on. For example, we've got a website that's basically a parenting chat line, because all those physical services are closing down. Who can parents talk to, at odd hours of the night to ask stupid questions? So that's talk.actionforchildren.org.uk. Right now, we've got two lovely people called Joe and Gina who manage that chat line, but if we want to scale that up, we need technology to help us do that. We also do pregnancy subscription boxes to help women going into the journey of pregnancy, to help with their well-being. So that's called bumpbox.org. And our challenge there is, how can we kind of celebrate people who are going through this crazy journey and also help them get back into work after that, so that we're celebrating the fact that, you can be a working parent and a mom. And lastly, one of my pet ideas that we need to get off the ground is flexible pop-up childcare. So instead of having to choose very fixed kind of patterns of booking in childcare for your kids and it being kind of closer to the house, it would be amazing if you could have it within your workspaces and kind of almost like an Uber for childcare type of model. And we need companies that want to trial that with us and explore kind of some of those ideas. So my ask to you is, one, Google Action for Children, because we're not very well known, even though we're a huge organization. Add me on LinkedIn. And do please approach me if any of these ideas sound interesting, because basically we want to make the world a better place for children and parents in the UK. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Geeta. Thank you. Who's up next, Diane?
Great, well, I'm excited about this one. So we have Joshua Street, GB athlete, global speaker, and entrepreneurship coach.
Ooh. There was a lot in that intro, but if you want to add anything else to it and let us know how to get in contact.
I don't think I've got enough time for that.
Ooh.
So, quick one. I want to ask you guys, by a show of hands, how many of you actually went to school? So, everyone. Now, during your education, how many of you were actually taught about making a creative CV, a T cover letter, making a powerful impact in your interviews? How many? Show of hands. So 1, 2 people. At your school, how many of you told you how to make an innovative company, about fundraising, seed investments, the lean startup? Show of hands. How many of you at school were taught about money management? If you have a passion for football or acting, how to make money on that passion and how to actually live long and enjoy the fruit of your awards? 1? Right, so my name is Joshua Street. I'm a global speaker, entrepreneurship coach, and a GB athlete. And what I do is I go around to youth centers and places across the world to deliver some powerful content to young people revolving around business, technology, culture, sport, and career development. Now, this is more of a pitch for myself, but what I want you guys to do is to remember that young people are just like you, and they were once you. What they want to do is get to where you are. And I've literally just come from a youth center delivering a talk where young people feel heavily disengaged. The amount of youth centers that are working, and then suddenly that youth center will go out of business because of the lack of funding. So my pitch is, if you do have a way which I can be able to talk to young people, support them, then please let's get in touch. And also, if you do have any ways you can support, whether it's an accelerator, business development, or anything like that, please let me know. So again, I'm Joshua Street, and I want you to remember there's an African phrase of it takes a village to raise a child. And the question is, how are we creating that village to really encourage that powerful development of young people? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to give us a few ways to contact you?
So I've kind of made it somewhat easy. Everything on social media is under the words The Joshua Street. Street as in roads, in street life. Yes, quality street. Yes, I know. So, and on my social media, I've got my website as well. And the reason why I call myself The Joshua Street isn't out of ego, but out of actually remembering how powerful and special you are. There's only one and only Joshua. There's one and only Meg. There's only one and only Lewis. And you need to remember how amazing, how powerful, and how unique you are, and that you and every single person has something to offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I think she got a name check there, but next up is Meg with My Mind Too.
Woo woo. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Can everyone hear me? Just do this if you can hear me. Great. So I don't really like microphones because 1 minute they'll just throw you off. But I've just got a really good introduction. So yeah, I'm Meg, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about a situation. So as of last year in December, around 160,000 young people between the ages of 10 and 25 unfortunately took their own lives. Where I'm from, in Buckingham, we have around inhabitants of about 250, so that's almost my whole village in Buckingham of kids that were taken last year because of their minds. And sadly, I could have been one of those kids last year when I turned 20 and I wanted to take my own life as well. And my story is not uncommon. If you look at me right now, you can't tell that I suffer from BPD or anorexia or depression anxiety. But that's the hard thing about mental illness, and actually a lot of the things that were said earlier, if you can't see it, you don't know. But we do have an opportunity, which is we can talk about it, and that's why I created My Mind Matters Too. My Mind Matters Too is a youth-led mental health organisation which offers a dual consultancy approach. So we basically like to work in terms of collaboration. So on the one side, we consult with schools, businesses, and universities, and on the other side, we try to come up with new ways with young people themselves in rooms like this to give them their agency. One thing that my mental illness took from me was my voice, and that's one thing I want all young people to not lose. We talk so much about agency, we talk often about young people, but so many times we talk about young people when they're out of the room. Our job and my team, we constantly work to put them back in the room. So So we offer workshops, we offer events, we do research and reports, but most importantly, we campaign. So I'm a mental health campaigner and consultant, and I do a lot of work, even with businesses, just to make sure that mental health is actually something that's spoken about and seen. In terms of how I would like you to get involved, I just want you guys to speak. I think there's so much value in people's stories. All of us have had some time where we haven't really felt ourselves, or it's been a bit hard to get out of bed. But most importantly, every single one of you right here has mental health. Part of the reason we don't understand it is because there's a lack of education. So how can we collaborate together with finance? How can we collaborate with banks? How can we collaborate with tech? How can we collaborate with education and health to make sure that this is something that isn't stigmatized anymore, and that is a very normal thing to have a conversation, and it's not something that I feel like I can't speak about because it's just as much as my identity as possible. So my call for action is, please do share your story. 2, actively try and have conversations. You can be a change maker yourself. And 3, if you're a school, business, or you know any universities, please do get in touch. We are about to release brand new kind of online workshops and testing some kind of healthcare with VR and AI to kind of see how we can innovate tech and use tech to provide more personalised mental health support that is age appropriate, that cares for the young person, but most importantly, makes their voices heard. So,
Oh, Meg, don't go just yet. Hold on, hold on. How can we find you? How can we get in contact?
The way you can get in touch is literally, if you type in on Google, you'll find My Mind Matters 2. We have a website as well, literally just My Mind Matters 2. We're there on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and our website. In terms of getting involved, our events, we pretty much hold roughly around 25 events a year, and they take place in London. In terms of where you can find me and the work that I do campaigning, you'll also find me on LinkedIn, and you'll find the work that I do there. You can email us at mymindmatters2@gmail.com. And in terms of the second thing that I need to talk about, obviously we're all here in terms of social inclusion. One of the things that I'm looking at, and actually Plexal are looking at, is how can we use tech to kind of solve some of the biggest issues in terms of social inclusion. And I feel like we have a great opportunity right now to kind of brainstorm. So if I can have you guys think for the next kind of 30 seconds while I come off and we introduce the next person, and before we leave, if you can jot down one idea that you think personally that tech can be used to solve social inclusion, one point. And the second point is, what does social inclusion mean to you in one word? Like, what issue do you care about the most? Because there's no point talking about social inclusion when this is all of our society and then we're not kind of using what it is that you guys care about.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Meg. We now have Wen with Less for More.
Hello. Tell us a bit about yourself, please.
I thought we're just going to start.
We can do it that
right
way round
away.
as well.
And how much time I have?
2 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay. I miscalculated. Okay, thanks. I have a problem, and I do have a solution. It's just that I don't see how it could have investment or make money. That's why I'm here, and perhaps some of you here would have a better idea. That's why I decided to come and lose some faces. In 2010, squatting has been made illegal, and then immediately 2,000 people become homeless. And last year, there were 7,500 people sleeping rough, and that was the official number. Now, if we could put the underused spaces and turn them into temporary bunker beds, dormitory for at least 6 months, a transient period for those who are not included, to have opportunity and the period of rehabilitation time for them to rebuild themselves and to reconnect to the society. There's a lot of refurbishment projects going on. So rather than building more buildings and housings. We transform what's already there. So we're producing, or we're making less empty spaces, but to produce more citizens. And that's about 1 minute. Yeah, actually I'm done.
Thank you. When? That's a great idea. Before you go, though, would you like to give everyone a chance to get in contact?
So, business advisors, I'm a student just across the door. My email address is wen.18. That's not my age, but wen.18@ucl.ac.uk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now have Damien with Skills Boost.
Oh, wow, we got a little show to start with. Tell us a bit more.
How's everyone doing? Thumbs up if everyone's cool. Bro, so I'm Damien. I've been working with young people for the last 5 years, and the big issue that we found in education is a lack of access. So I managed to work with a few private schools like Eton. I managed to work with a lot of state schools, and the issue between the talent from state school students and private school students, there isn't much. The big issue is access to information between those two schools. So Skill Boost, essentially, we're looking at personalizing education through learning styles. Science kind of proved that there are 6 different learning styles. So there are visual learners, verbal, kinesthetic, oral, logical, and social learners. So like in a group like this, we're going to learn quite a lot from each other. We basically created a platform where we take a user onto our website, we kind of assess what their learning style is, and then we match content that's already out there on the internet. So things like events like these, the YouTube videos, the courses from Khan Academy, Coursera, FutureLearn, for example, and then we match it to the user based on their style of learning, the available time frame during the day that they have to learn, and the actual skills that they want to learn. Specifically, we're focusing on STEM skills just because there is a really big skills gap within the STEMs market. About 150,000 new jobs are being created in the next 4 years, but we don't have enough students to actually fill them in. So my call to action is, over the next 2 years, we're trying to understand as much about the education system as possible. If anyone has any contacts within the education system or the tech sector, please do let me know. I'm going to be around for the networking. Afterwards, we could grab a drink, say hello to each other, shake hands real quick. And then, for information, it's a bit of Damesy on Instagram, Twitter, Damien Zabielski on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think you had the pleasure of closing out the lightning pitches. So
Before we do send our judges on to the deliberations, is there anybody else we can tempt to the stage for a final pitch? Please come up and see Folly.
Excellent. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. I'm not very good with microphones. Can you hear me clearly? Yes. All right. I'm just going to read from the script, if that's okay. I'll bid this along. My name is Ade Awokoya. I'm founder, LB Academy, and it's a social enterprise which is at inception stage. I'm new at social enterprise, I'll say that, and I think it's a good place to be because I'm over 50 and I'm over here. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. So my strength is basically technical, projects, and numbers. And I've actually had to go for some special training to kind of be a people's person. But, I've been in Newham for 20 years, and I was telling somebody it was a dump when I arrived 20 years ago. But I've seen things come up. But the issue there is people here were left in a road for like 15 years, and then all of a sudden, we come here, we build these fancy houses, establishments, and we expect we can now make these people who have been run down for 10, 15 years to be inclusive. And kind of, this is the path I want to take. And where I would like to start is, what problem are you addressing? So there's a digital skills gap in the local community, and we want to address the unemployment issue. One issue I've seen here is mostly people are talking about 18 to 24s, but people forget people over 50 also need reskilling. Housewives need reskilling. And if you can target the primary earner in the household to get a better paying job, then you actually impact, and make some good things. So what's the idea? The idea is to have a virtual business growth hub. One thing I do not want to do is reinvent the wheel. There's other people doing some good stuff there. And so what my virtual academy will do is take in excess capacity. Someone in Birmingham, for example, I got in touch with him. He's got this fantastic judicial idea, which I could probably license and use here. Right, so what's the immediate need? The immediate need is basic digital skills, but the end goal, which is where my heart is deep learning tech. Forget all these buzzwords, it's AI. Everyone talks about these buzzwords and AI and all of that, but software, every company is now a software company. And most of the companies that employ now, you don't need a degree anymore, right? So the end goal maybe in 18 months is to have a program where we can upskill people and they go from £18,000 to £35,000. What impact will you create? Like I just said, empower people. The problem I'm having now is the user inclusion. So I like to get on my feet and trek around the place. And I think for me, the front line is the libraries. I've been to the Newham libraries. They don't have money. Everything is stripped down. So what I'd like to do, and what support I need, is maybe a team of volunteers. I'm not very good at praising people. I would say, hey, do better, do better. But so if you're going to volunteer with me, I'm a hard taskmaster, letting you know. The second thing is a trial run, where I can go to the libraries, something not fancy, a scope, PISA, and not talk over anybody's head, really. And thirdly, probably support from Plexal. I like to work at home most of the time in my pajamas. So I'll probably be here maybe 2 days in a week. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. And if you want to get rid of me, if you want to get in touch with me very easily, just Google LB Academy, one word on Google. I'm page 1 and page 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ade. And so thank you very much to everybody who gave a lightning pitch. They were of amazing quality, and I'm sure the judges are going to have lots of fun in a second deliberating. But I know Russell's itching to get back on stage, so you have a mic.
Yeah, I do. I stole it. I stole it off Diane. Wow, and thank you. I'm not sure this microphone's on, but you can probably hear me anyway. Fantastic. There isn't a lot more for me to say over and above what you just said, for all the way through from some pretty amazing stories, a lot of personal bravery about the challenges that people have faced themselves and how that's driven invention and innovation, all the way through to how a big and growing technology company recognizes that to build inclusive products and services, they need to build inclusion into their workforce and everything in between. So thank you. It would be remiss not to mention that there are other people sat out here in the audience that I can see who are innovators. We've got Shani, who has set up a disability app that has 10,000 users. Go and have a conversation with her. She works closely with Virgin and about 10 other people as well. I'm looking at James also, who has about 6 jobs and 6 brains and always tries to convince me to be less incoherent, so thank you, James. Alexander Ross, I can see, sat out here. Accountancy firm, thank you for giving of your time and being here today. We can see Habs from Ford. If you want to talk to Habs about product design innovation, then have that conversation. And of course, I can't say everybody because that would take quite a long time. But what I am trying to say is stick around, have those conversations. We ask the question, what support do you need? Well, now's the chance to talk to each other about it. Our judging panel, we asked them a very difficult question. We said, pick one. What's the one that you think is the most creative and different?
That was a key question. Guys, how long do you think you need to answer that question? 10 minutes? 10 minutes. Okay, so the judging panel are going to... Yeah. Okay, not easy at all. I think we preempted that a little bit. We planned to give as a prize, we said we'd give a week's trial in Plexal, and then I think we probably had the idea that everybody was probably going to give quite good pitches, which of course they did, and so we've decided to extend that to everybody. So those cards are on your tables. As a second thing, we're also launching the Open Door Accelerator program. I think there are loads of pitches within here that we'd love to see in that program. That's going to support 10 companies to scale their social impact. So please do apply. Please do suggest it to other people that you think should apply. And if it's not the program for you, then please do stay involved and come along to events like this.